Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Kayfabe Central podcast and another episode of the AEW Dynamite post-show review. It is February 4th, 2026. I am still not getting used to not calling it January. January just went by way too fast, man. But we are in February already, the second month of the year, the fourth date. We had AEW Dynamite just wrap up, and I'm going to be breaking it all down here on the post-show review. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. If you're returning, welcome back. You know how this works. I break down everything from the matches to the segments, all that good stuff. I break down here on the Kayfabe Central post-show review, whether it be for Monday Night Raw, whether it be for Dynamite, whether it be for SmackDown or a PLE/slash pay-per-view. I break it all down here on the Kayfabe Central post-show. If you are in the live chat, I appreciate you guys. Make sure you chat it up in the chat. I will read as many chats as I can. And yeah, man, just like I mentioned, and in the Raw post show, making it as engaging as I can. I love talking to you guys after these shows and getting your opinions and thoughts on some of these things. It helps me a lot to keep the ball moving and keep it going. So drop your thoughts in the live chat, and if you're watching this after the fact, make sure you drop your comments down below as well. Like I said, I always love hearing you guys' opinions, whether we agree or disagree. It's wrestling. It's a subjective sport. So, hey, drop your opinions down in the comments. Uh, we're going to be breaking that stuff down on AEW Dynamite because we had a few interesting things that did go down. Before we get into that, though, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you're up to date with all the videos, podcasts, and interviews that come to the channel. Subscribe. Don't subscribe to the Ko-Fi page because that barely even exists anymore. Someone's car alarm is going off outside, so I apologize if anybody can hear that. But check out the Kayfabe Central website is what I'm trying to say. That's where I post all of my coverage posts, articles, all that good stuff is up on the Kayfabe Central website. So go check that stuff out. My preview posts, all that stuff is up there on the Kayfabe Central website. So if that is something that interests you, go check it out. Yeah, go check that stuff out. Go check out the TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff if you want announcements and updates onto the channel and rest of stuff, whether it be interviews, podcasts, whatever the case may be, and other big announcements that I do have planned coming in the future. So make sure you guys are staying tuned for all that good stuff. But enough of the self promo, enough of promoting myself. Let's promote this fairly solid episode of AEW Dynamite. Now, I'm not gonna say that this was the greatest episode of Dynamite because it wasn't, but it wasn't a god awful episode either. I will say, and I'm going to give credit where it's due with AEW, is the past couple of weeks, these shows have been very easily watchable. I haven't found myself getting like tired or like, oh man, I'm like bored of this and I don't want to because AEW does a great job of just going from one thing, then we're here to the next. They don't have like these long breaks in between or anything like that. And that's what I can appreciate in a show, when we're just getting to the point. Obviously you need commercials during a show, especially like weekly TV shows and all this stuff. You need your advertisements. That's how you make your money. Sure, that's fine. WWE does that a little bit more. And this is not, an AEW over WWE thing or vice versa. But I do appreciate this with AEW, the fact that the past couple weeks their shows have been very like watchable. You could easily watch it. I've been watching these shows with my grandpa downstairs as well, and he enjoyed the show tonight as well. And he's always going to be honest about how he feels about a show, whether it's good or bad. So, if he says it's good, then it was probably pretty solid. But yeah, let's break down some of what did happen on AEW Dynamite. So we kicked off the night with a trios match. The Don Callis family took on the Death Riders. It was Konosuke Takeshita, El Clone, and Josh Alexander versus John Moxley, Pac, and Daniel Garcia. The Don Callis family picks up the win in a very, very solid opener. There was a lot of near falls in this match, a lot of big spots from guys. All six of these guys look great. All six of these guys are very talented. So it was nice to see that. Moxley looks great. Yeah, this was just a very fun match and a very fun trios match. This is obviously setting up the potential John Moxley, or the inevitable, I should say, John Moxley and Konosuke Takeshita match for the Continental Championship because, of course, Takeshita is the one who beat John Moxley in the Continental Classic. So he wants a shot at that Continental title. So that's going to happen at some point. I can't remember if they did announce that match. I don't know if that's happening at Grand Slam Australia or what the case is. I can't fully remember. So if anybody does know if they announced it or not, let me know in the chat or in the comments afterwards. But good way to kick off the show. I don't really have anything else to add on to that. There weren't any like specific spots in the match that I had noted or anything like that. It was just a very fun opener. Backstage, Renee Paquette was with Swerve Strickland and Prince Nana. She asks what's next after Swerve's loss last week, and suggesting that they're gonna have to start from the bottom. But Prince Nana says, just one loss doesn't mean anything. We still have the same goal of being at the top of All Elite Wrestling. So they're still motivated. That's pretty much what that backstage segment was. There wasn't anything more to it. And then we get more of Swerve Strickland a little bit later on, but we'll get into that. We then went into a match I had no idea was announced for the show, unless this was just something they sprung on all of us, last minute or whatever, because this wasn't on my coverage post or preview or whatever earlier in the day when I posted it. But it was a mixed tag match. It was Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm taking on Jordan Oasis and Brittany Brooks. Now, these are two people that I've spoken to personally. Brittany Brooks has been a guest on the Kayfabe sessions here on Kayfabe Central. Jordan Oasis, I've trained with before when I was an active wrestler. I've spoken to him before. Both very nice people, very kind people, some of the kindest people you will meet. Jordan Oasis and Brittany Brooks, man. Brittany had such a great interview. She got voted for best interview of the year for Kayfabe Central here. So she's just an awesome person. It's great to see these two get this opportunity. Obviously, we know Jordan Oasis was released of his WWE ID contract a few months ago, so I'm glad to see that he's back in the ring and he gets this spotlight, and they get to be in there with Tony Storm and Orange Cassidy. So, you know, that's as good as it's gonna get, right, for right now. So I hope this means something big for them. I hope, Tony Khan saw something here because I know what these two can do. I know how talented both of these people are, Jordan Aces and Brittany Brooks. So maybe, just maybe, they'll land a job in AEW. I would love to see that. I always love seeing people that absolutely deserve it make it in this industry and in general, but especially this industry. It can be a very difficult industry sometimes to make it out. So it would be amazing to see people like Jordan Oasis and Brittany Brooks get more opportunities like this. But they do lose this match to Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm, of course. Is after the match, Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm were fearing of going bald. Now, I don't know what I keep missing. Maybe I need to watch Collision more and pay more attention to Collision because I had no idea this was whoever gets pinned loses their hair match. Which, oh man, I hate to do this again, but that's a very WWE thing. And I'm not the biggest fan of it. I wasn't the biggest fan of it when WWE was doing it. It's just not, unless one of them genuinely does want to go bald and they're like, hey, maybe we could have incorporated this to a storyline. If that's the case, then sure, whatever. Um, but if not, then I really don't understand why we're doing this and why that's a stipulation. The match itself should be fine because I think Wheeler Yuta and Marina Shafir are talented. Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm are great, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the timeless gimmick. We've been over this before. Um, but it should still be a good match. But adding the loser loses their hair or something like it's weird. And I don't really like it. Like I said, I never liked it when WWE did those kind of things, but it is what it is. They're still confident ahead of their match. Earlier today, the War Dogs attacked Darby Allin in the parking lot, and I'm gonna tie into what happened a little bit later on as well into this segment because later on we had the War Dogs attack a producer backstage, Gabe Kidd and uh, oh man, what is his tag partner's name? I completely forget his partner's name. So forgive me. It'll probably come to me eventually, but they attack a producer backstage and they tell him to roll a tape, which is them dragging Darby Allin. He's attached to a car in a body bag, and they're driving with him in the desert, and they leave him in the desert. This was, I feel, something you would see in like just like a very old school action movie. This was this was weird. I didn't really like this. I think it was a little too theatric for professional wrestling. And I get the whole, sometimes wrestling is supposed to be cinematic, sometimes, it's supposed to be, overacting a little bit. This just pushed it for me a little bit. Um I don't know. It was, it just gave me. I'm trying to think of a specific like movie or anything, but nothing is coming to mind right now. Um, yeah, I don't know, but it seemed a little bit too theatric for me, and it wasn't the greatest segment. I'll say that. I also don't know why we're still doing a Darby and Gabe Kidd feud. I really don't. I thought that this would have been over with. Because technically Gabe Kidd was like an honorary part of the Death Riders, I guess. I would have assumed that he was a, full-blown member of the Death Riders, but like he obviously didn't get fully introduced or anything like that. But man, I'm just not a fan of this. I want to see Darby Allin do something different rather than feud with the same people that he's been feuding with for over a year now. It's just not interesting anymore to me. And it's unfortunate because Gabe Kidd, very talented. Darby Allin, very talented. But when you put the same people in the same feud for months and a year on going, it becomes less and less interesting every single time. And that's just what it's become to me. Some people may still enjoy it. I don't. Like I said, it's become a little bit too theatric for me. Um, I feel like we should just stick to the wrestling aspect of it, right? You can still make a personal wrestling feud and not make it seem like this is a action movie from the early 2000s, right? You know what? This reminded me of something you would see in uh what is it, Breaking Bad? I feel like that's something this is something you'd see in that show. Um yeah, it didn't really float my boat. Again, maybe some other people liked it. I just personally didn't. We then had where did we go next? We went to Hangman Adam Page defeating Mark Davis in a fantastic match. Mark Davis is so underrated, and I think and hope Tony Khan sees that and sees how well he can be utilized in the future because there at one point like I did say at the end of the year awards I believe that he was very like bland, um, and he had just a very bland character, which I still feel he does, but he is really good. He is good in the ring. And I think that there's a chance for him to do some bigger things in AEW this year and the years to come. So, he's gonna keep improving, hopefully. Because I was a little bit harsh on him to end 2025 because I just didn't feel like he was adding anything. But now that they've teamed up, they've done this Davis and Doyle thing, which, by the way, Jake Doyle was nowhere to be seen on this episode, but a lot of other members of the Don Callis family weren't either, so that's fine. Um, they've done this Davis and Doyle tag team, and Mark Davis is starting to feel a little bit more important. Jake Doyle is starting to feel a little bit more important. They're starting to get a little bit more shine. I feel like Mark Davis is kind of finding the footings of his character and what that character is. So it's going to be interesting to see the evolution of Mark Davis. and where that goes. But I think this was an excellent match, excellent wrestling here. There wasn't anything specific that stood out to me that was like, oh, that was bad, or oh, that didn't look good or anything. If anything, I was like, oh man, that looks stiff. There was a lot of stiff shots in this match, and it was great. Hangman does pick up the win after the match. Adam Page says he hopes to see Kenny Omega in the number one contenders match in Australia for Grand Slam. He then says he will stomp MJF's balls and get his AEW World Championship back. So, we've had people threaten to stomp heads in or stomp your hand or your foot or whatever. Never have I heard I'll stomp your balls in. So, Hangman pulling out a new one there. But if you kick a man that low, you stomp him that low, he's gonna be out for a 3 count. He will be out for a 3 count. It'll hurt, so maybe it'll work. That is if it's no disqualification. If it's not, then you kind of screwed Hangman. We had a hype package for Kevin Knight. I feel like I'm kind of just breezing through these things, but I don't really have a lot to add on to some of these things. Um, we had a hype package for Kevin Knight, and then we went to Andrade taking on Kenny Omega. Andrade defeats Kenny Omega with some help from Don Callis, of course. But this was a great match. You're not gonna get a bad match between these two. It's Andrade and Kenny Omega. Like I looked at the card before the show, and I'm like, if I were to present this card to anybody else and say, if you want a guaranteed banger match, it's Andrade and Kenny Omega for sure. And they delivered a banger match. Obviously, they had Don Callis get involved. I guess they didn't want Andrade to beat Kenny Omega clean fully. In terms of the decision to have Andrade win, I think it's fine. Kenny Omega has had his moments. He's had his time. And it's just a backstep, right? Like just because, Swerve lost or whatever the case is, doesn't mean like, he's not going to be the AEW World Title picture for months to come. Both of these guys, Swerve and Kenny, who do get into an altercation after this match because they're going to be in the AEW World Title picture is what I'm saying. But the confrontation was because Swerve came out to help Kenny Omega, but Kenny Omega didn't see it that way and questioned him after the match and started shoving each other, and security came out to separate them. So I'm assuming that this is just going to be a match, Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland, which is going to be a fantastic match. And then Hangman is involved in the AEW World Title picture. Um, I wonder if Omega and Swerve is something they wait for Revolution. That is a long ways away, so I don't know if they want to wait that long or if they like what they have planned for Revolution and what they want to wait for and what they don't mind, doing in the weeks to come. Because when you have when you have a pay-per-view as far as Revolution is right now, you gotta build some strong weekly shows, which I'm not saying they're not doing, but you gotta have a plan and say, like, okay, we can have this person challenge for the title in these coming weeks, but we want to save this match for the pay-per-view. So I would hope and I would think that they do have something like that in mind and planned. So yeah, but Kenny and Swerve is definitely a match that is going to happen. We had a hype package for Brody King and MJF later on in the night. Chris Statlander was backstage with Renee Paquette. I didn't catch all of this segment because there was a lot of noise in my house at the time, and people were going in and out of the house and whatnot. But she pretty much says that she will announce the stipulation, I believe she said, for her rematch with Tekla, because she has agreed to give Tekla a rematch, which again, if I'm gonna give WWE the same hassle about this, I'm gonna do it with AEW as well. If you lose your title match, you shouldn't just get another rematch like that. You should be earning your matches. You could have at least had Tekla win a number one contenders match or something. Um, you know, it you can't have somebody lose and then, immediately be like, okay, you can have another title match. Like last I checked, I the superstar shouldn't be calling the shots on the show. That should be booked by Tony Khan because that's what they use. They're like, oh, this has been made official by Tony Khan. You could have just had that. You have the guy announce some matches sometimes as well, so you could have done something there. I'm just always of the mindset that somebody should earn a championship match. Like we had somebody earn a championship match tonight, something as small as that in the main event, which I'll get into is fine because you've established that okay, they've earned a shot now. Tekla lost, and after that didn't do anything to earn another shot, but because Chris Statlander says so, she defended against her. So it is what it is, though. The match is eventually going to happen. She said she's going to announce what everything is going to be on Saturday on Collision. So we got to wait for that. I don't know if this week is a live edition of Collision or if it's pre-taped. Actually, I think it's pre-taped because they said Las Vegas. So I imagine that's what they're doing right now, actually. Um, we then went to the AEW Women's World Tag Team Championship match between Mega Bad, Megan Bayne, and Penelope Ford versus the Babes of Wrath, Harley Cameron, and Willow Nightingale. Mega Bad pick up the win in this match. This was a fine enough match. I feel like they didn't go all in, for no pun intended, for this match because of the outcome, because Megabad was going to win, and they're obviously going to do this match again. So they're not going to go at it, 110%. They're not going to pull out some big, huge moves in this one because they know the outcome. That's kind of how you can scope out, who's going to win a match. Like, if they're going all out in an eliminator match, then you can probably assume the champion is just going to win. But if you feel like there's like, um, they're holding back a little bit, you can be like, okay, maybe the challenger is going to win here. And that's what this was. And that's perfectly fine, I guess. But this is why I'm not a huge fan of the eliminator idea in the first place. Because I don't like when uh I don't like the eliminator term, is what I'm trying to say, because it doesn't actually eliminate you from contention. It never does. That's never the case. It's never what it's used for. It's just it sounds harsh, but it's an easy way to get a number one contender, right? It's very similar to what WWE was doing a few years ago when I think they were calling it a contenders match or something when a challenger would face the champion, and like everybody didn't like that idea, and I didn't like it either. It's the same thing with AEW. It's the same stuff, and it's I don't think it's the greatest idea. There's many different ways you can have somebody earn a championship match rather than beating the champion and then having to beat the champion again. If you beat the champion, you should be the champion, right? Like the champion, and I get that AEW has a lot of championships, which again is a problem. But you need to be earning championship shots, especially when it's for the main title. For example, this is the main title in the women's division. There should be a bunch of women hungry, wanting a title shot. If I'm somebody like I don't even know, like say Jamie Hayter. If I'm Jamie Hayter or something like that in kayfabe, I'm upset because Tekla just lost. Why can't I get an opportunity to earn a shot now? Why does she just get an automatic rematch, right? So in kayfabe, it doesn't make a lot of sense, um, and like you shouldn't be beating the champion and not becoming the champion. So I'm not the biggest fan of the eliminator matches. But Megabad does pick up the win here. Backstage, Tommaso Ciampa, who was the new TNT champion, is sitting in his chair, kind of similar to his NXT promos and all that. Classic Tommaso Ciampa promo here, and he says in honor of Mark Briscoe and the TNT Championship, he will carry on the open challenges, and he is defending it this weekend against Roderick Strong. And I think they said, I can't remember who the other person was that they said he was defending against, but he's defending it and against in a triple threat this Saturday on Collision. So that's something to look forward to. The TNT title being on the line every week. I'm glad that they're doing this. And because I think, especially with as many titles, like I just mentioned, as AEW has, you should have a title that's defended every week. You should have your TV title. And Collision's on TNT, the title's being defended on there. That's perfect, right? So I think this is a good way to get the TNT Championship moving, and get some guys in there and showcase some guys, and you could have like indie guys even come in and challenge for the TNT Championship. Um, Tommaso Ciampa's name for the title is Sylvie, and he says Sylvie is not going anywhere anytime soon. So good luck to anybody that wants to challenge me. Tommaso Ciampa has this weird kink where he names his championships and becomes obsessed with them, but that is just why he's a great champion. Um, we then had the AEW National Championship match. Ricochet defeated Jack Perry to retain the title in a fantastic match as well. Both of these guys are so good, man. Like I like I mentioned, I was watching this with my grandpa, and he was just in awe. Like he was just so locked in and focused on this match, as well. And so was I. Like this was amazing. And they put on a show. They went out there and put on a show. Obviously, the GOA did get involved, and they helped Ricochet retain the title because Ricochet had prompted up the title in the corner on the second buckle and made Jack Perry go face first into the title and won the match. So Ricochet retains. I can imagine they're going to set up a rematch potentially between him and Jack Perry. That's if they want Jack Perry to eventually win the national championship. Not to say like that he has to if they do a rematch, because that's obviously not the case. But I can imagine, again, in kayfabe, Jack Perry wouldn't be happy about it going down this way, and that's usually the case anyway when a babyface gets cheated out of, and it becomes a everyone's banned from ringside kind of thing. And then we finally have the match, and the champion still finds a way to cheat and win. Um, Usually when it's everyone banned from ringside, more times, uh, more times than none, it's the champion retaining and still finding a way to cheat. In the odd case, it is the challenger picking up the win and be like, finally, didn't have any distractions or anything like that, and I won the title. But usually that's just not the case. Um, we then went to the main event of the evening, the AEW World Championship Eliminator match, Brody King and MJF. Before they even lock up, before they even touch each other, Hangman Adam Page's music hits, and MJF gets immediately distracted by Hangman standing on the stage, and Brody King grabs MJF, who's now on the apron, in a sleeper hold and puts him to sleep. The same spot that we saw on Monday with Gunther and Dragon Lee. Brody King does to MJF here. Is this just gonna be an occurring thing every single week? Like, are we just gonna start choking people out on the apron of the ring now? But yeah, he does that, and then he brings MJF in, does his little cannonball thing, does his pile driver, and he beats MJF just like that. So Brody King squashes the AEW World Champion. Um, I again, I'm not gonna reiterate my points about me not being a fan of the Eliminator matches. Um, However, if you want to do it and you want to find a way for the champion to not lose clean, but then end up beating the challenger in the championship match, I guess this is a way to do it. So I'm not entirely mad. I was looking at the time too. I feel like somebody went overtime. I feel like somebody went over their time, and this match may have been supposed to go longer. I could be completely wrong about that. This could have been something that was planned. Um, but wrestling is all about surprises and unexpected things in wrestling, and this was pretty unexpected. I really did not expect Brody King to squash MJF, like not on my bingo card. Like if you were to give me a list of things, like a true or false of things that would happen on AEW tonight, I would put under false of MJF being squashed by Brody King, because I just would not think that would happen. And here it is. It happened, and Brody King has his AEW World Championship match against MJF at AEW Grand Slam Australia. Now, let's talk about kayfabe for a second, because Hangman Adam Page is the reason Brody King won this match. But if you're Hangman Adam Page, wouldn't you want to beat the guy that you hate the most for the AEW World Championship, the guy who took it from you? Well, I mean, that was Joe, but like the guy you hate the most, but instead, yeah, there's a chance in kayfabe that Brody King wins the AEW World Title. He's not going to, but in kayfabe, there's a chance that he does. Why would you want to face Brody King more than MJF, the guy that you absolutely hate, and you have a chance to, destroy this guy you hate and take his title from him? So I don't completely understand that logic. And that's not really adding up to me. Maybe in the coming weeks, something will become a little bit more clearer. But as of right now, it kind of left me a little bit confused. Because, if this was anybody else, like, no, now that I think about it, like it wouldn't have made sense if it was anybody else in this title picture either. Because like realistically, if you're a challenger, I feel like you would want to face MJF over Brody King. I feel like you'd want the smaller guy of the two. And by the way, like not to say MJF is a small guy, that guy is built like a Greek god. But if out of the two, you'd probably want MJF over Brody King. So yeah, like anybody else doing this wouldn't have made sense either. But either way, Brody King does win, thanks to Hangman Adam Page. After the match, Andrade attacked Brody and MJF, but then it was stopped by Hangman Adam Page with a stiff buckshot lariat. And then MJF low blows Hangman. Oh man, you're talking Hangman stomping MJF's balls. Oh no. Oh no. This was this was a stiff low blow, it looked like. Maybe it was completely fine, but and it wasn't as stiff as it looked, but whew. But MJF catches him with a low blow, but then Brody King hits MJF with another pile driver, and he's the one standing tall. And that is how the show comes to an end. Uh, yeah, overall, a fine segment. I do like that I mentioned, like I mentioned last week, that we have a bunch of different people involved, and the world title picture doesn't just revolve around two people feuding. And there's a plethora of different people, right? So I really enjoyed that. I just wish some things would start making a little bit more sense. But again, we're still some time away from AEW Grand Slam Australia. So I'm sorry, Revolution. And Grand Slam Australia is coming up soon in 10 days. So maybe things will start clicking and making more sense as the weeks go on, as we get more Collision and Dynamite episodes. So yeah. Before we do log off, though, by the way, if you are in the live chat, I almost knocked over my microphone. But if you are in the live chat, make sure you are leaving your chats in the chat. Tell me all your thoughts on AEW Dynamite, because we are in the final stretch of this post-show review. So make sure you are dropping your thoughts in the live chat. But this is a very good time to promote our sponsor for this video, because sometimes your boy gets tired. Sometimes I don't feel like getting up and recording content. As much as I love you guys, I get tired. But you know what can help with energy? You know what can help you just go after your day with full force, W Energy can help with that. They have a variety of different and delicious flavors that you can look at on their website and drink on their website. And you know what? You can also get it for 10% off using the code Kayfabe Central on all W products. If you use the code Kayfabe Central, you get 10% off all W products. I That sounds like a great deal. You get 10% off. You get the energy to start your day, whether it's pre-workout, whether it's a 24-hour stream, whether you're gaming all day, whatever the case is, W Energy has got your back if you are low on energy. It'll help you gain your energy. It tastes delicious. So make sure you guys go check out W Energy, code Kayfabe Central for 10% off. The link is down below in the description. But that was my AEW Dynamite post-show review. Thank you everybody who popped into the live, if anybody did. And thank you everybody in advance for checking this out after the fact as well. I will be back Friday for the Friday Night SmackDown post-show review. And you know all that stuff. I still dread 3 hour SmackDowns. I just wish we can go back to 2 hours. Because 3 hour SmackDowns just take me out, man. Even being there live for a 3 hour SmackDown was taking me out. Yeah, that not something I look forward to every Friday, unless the card does look really good, which usually it doesn't. Um, but yeah, that was the AEW Dynamite post show review. I will see you guys on Friday. Thank you again to everybody who joined the live. Thank you everybody watching after the fact. And yeah, I will see you guys on Friday. And until then, take it easy.